So let's begin with our prayer. Master of all worlds, highest power, merciful parent of compassion, in your presence, eternal one, source of strength for us, as you have been for our ancestors, we very humbly
acknowledge you.
What are we? What is our
life
that
you have done such great kindness to us?
Therefore, we place
our appeals before you,
that you may
that
forgive
and help us of all our faults and failings. That our faults never become barriers between us and you.
And may it be
your desire to prepare our hearts with awe and love for you. May you listen to these words of ours, and may you open our encumbered hearts to the mysteries of your Torah. May our study be a source of pleasure before your throne of glory, like sweet incense. Shower down upon us the light of our soul's source in all the ways by which we define ourselves. May the sparks of your holy servants, through whom you have revealed these words to the world, shine and spark. May their merit,
your ancestors'
merit, the merit of their Torah, their innocence and their holiness stand for us, so as to prevent us from stumbling when we study these words. In their merit, may our eyes be illumined by what we study.
As in the saying of the
sweet singer of Israel.
Open my eyes
that I may gaze into wonders of your Torah.
The words of my mouth
and the thoughts of my heart, acceptable to you, my rock and my redeemer.
What is the eternal
grants wisdom? It is from his mouth that knowledge and understanding issue forth.
Na 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 na. Oh na na na. Na 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 na. Oh na na na. Na 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 na. Na 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 na. Na 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 na. Ah 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 na na na. Na 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 na. Oh no no no. Na 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 na. Oh no 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 no. Oh no 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 no. Oh no 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 no. Oh no 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 no. Oh no 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 no. Oh no 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 no. Oh no 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 no. Oh no 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 no. Oh no 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 no. Oh no 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 no. Oh no no. Oh no 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 no. Oh no 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 no. Oh no no. Oh no 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 no. Oh no 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 no. Ah na 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 na. Ah na na na. na 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 na. Oh no 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 oh no 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 oh no 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 oh no 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 no. Good. We are finishing up the words of this man. We don't know who he is. They met him on the road, Rabbi Yesa and Rabbi Yitzchak. And they first think that he's nobody. But as always, if they only would have read the Zohar, the people in the Zohar would have known that each time they meet somebody like this, he's not a nobody. So, that's what happens. So he's beginning to start giving a teaching about sacrifices and about specifically, he uses the text that we read for introducing the whole array of sacrifices for all of the holidays, and we use this also for Rosh Chodesh. So we were on 418 last time, and the idea being that this is et korbani lachmi, that et korbani, right? Et is my korban, et Shechina is my close companion. That's the way he reads it. And then he reads that the whole point of the offerings that we bring is to enhance, strengthen, promote, expand the benefits, the blessings that come out of that union of Shechina and her lover, which then spreads out to all other creatures, to all other Ishai, right? The korbanot, the offerings go to all of these other fiery creatures that are up in heaven, like the angels that do the bidding of Shechina, and so on. Finally, the last line on 418, right? Reach nichochi, right? My pleasing aroma, aspiration and connection, uniting all in mystery of the supernal world. Right? So the idea is to try to have the will, to have the desire to make this connection work. And then as the connection works, then the blessings flow and there becomes a mutually reinforcing union. Okay, so that's the middle of the verse, and we're now at 419. We're beginning to read from the top of 419. So the verse, right, says, Reach nichochi tishmeru lahakriv li b'moado, right? Make sure, right, be on your guard, right, to offer these sacrifices at the right time, right, at its time. So that's it. Take care. Top of the page. We do have a reader. Okay.
Take care to offer me at its appointed time. When is its appointed time? When Abraham roused himself to perform his will, as is written. Abraham arose early in the morning, and when Isaac was bound on the altar, which happened at twilight.
Okay. So what we have here is we've got designated appointed times. The morning and then as the day wanes and it's starting to get dark, right? That's the two appointed times. How do we get these two appointed times? So Vayash came Avram Baboker. Avraham, when he was told that he needs to make an offering to God of his own beloved son, he jumps up early in the morning, right? He gets up early in the morning. So that's one appointed time that we learn. And then, as it turns out, they walk together for 3 days, and they finally get to Mount Moriah, and they ascend the mountain by themselves. Everybody else is left below at the bottom of the mountain, and they get up to the top of the mountain, and the day is almost over. And that's when the Akedah happens. That's when Isaac is bound on the altar, and that's at twilight. So that is the bookend. Beginning of the day, the end of the day. So those are the times that the Korban Tamid is supposed to be offered, right? There's a morning Korban Tamid, and then there's an twilight Bein Harbayim, between the evenings, as the Hebrew goes, for the other continuous daily sacrifice. What we've codified as set times, these are the right times. These are the correct times. The appointed times, the time of coming together, of rendezvous, right? Meet me at the corner at 3 o'clock. So meet me, says God, meet me at the very beginning of the morning, meet me at twilight. These appointed times are established by history, right? By the tradition's reading of history, right? When Abraham gets up early in the morning, is that because he read in the Torah that early in the morning is the correct, proper time to serve God? No. Nobody tells Abraham that that's when he should do it. In fact, on the contrary, when we read that verse, we read it as a verse that shows how pious and loving Abraham was, that he didn't wait, he didn't tarry a second. He got up early in the morning, Vayashkem Avraham Baboker, that he got up, at the crack of dawn. He couldn't restrain himself from going and doing what God wanted. So it was a self-generated enthusiasm. Right? It's only afterwards that when we look back at that story, that we take his action, which was voluntary, spontaneous, completely driven from his own heart. We take that and we codify it as, okay, we also need to take that specific moment and use it for serving God, right? So it starts out of spontaneity, it starts out of improvisation, it starts out of freedom, and then it becomes regularized and sometimes, unfortunately, routinized, but it becomes set. And the same thing with the twilight. Had they walked just a little bit faster, they wouldn't have gotten there at twilight. Or if they had gone, a little slower, it would have been in the middle of the night, or they would have had to wait until the next morning till they climbed to the top of the mountain. This is all serendipitous. It's all by chance that it happened that they made it up to the mountain at that particular time, and that's when Isaac was bound. So again, it starts out just randomly, and then we take that random occurrence and we make it into an exemplification for all of us to follow. So this is, in general, the way things often happen, and it's the way that we deal with time. Right? Time is constantly flowing, and then we decide to make time significant by marking out special moments, special days, special years, special months, etc. Abraham is, for the Zohar, the epitome of generosity, right? The epitome of giving. And that fits in very well also with his experience. He can't help it. He's got to go and do what God wants him to do. So he spontaneously, generously gets up at the very beginning of the day. So that's very Abraham-like. The word that the Zohar constantly identifies with Abraham, chesed. He's giving, he's ready to give. He can't help himself. He wants to give the first opportunity that he can. What's the bookend to that? The twilight moment. Twilight moment is when Isaac lets himself be tied up. Isaac is completely not in control. Isaac is not choosing. He doesn't tie himself up. He doesn't get up at the crack of dawn and tie himself up. It happens that he gets to the mountain with his old father at that moment, and then he lets his father do unto him what his father feels he must do. So Isaac is a completely, he acquiesces to all of this. He participates by not resisting, but he is not initiating anything. He's not creative in his activity. He's passive. He's accepting what Abraham is imposing on him. He lets himself literally be bound up, be tied up. So Isaac is Gvura, and Ezehu Gibor HaKovesh et Yitzro, right? From Pirkei Avot, from chapter 4. Who is the real mighty person? Who's the real hero? Who's the one who has the most strength? The one who uses their strength to restrain themselves, right? To hold themselves back, not to give in to an impulse, not to give in to the spur of the moment without thinking, without considering, is it the right thing, is it the wrong thing, and so on. Isaac is that Gibor. Isaac is the person whose courage and whose might is in allowing himself to be put into that position by his father. Right? It's the courage to trust his father. We live in a society where nobody trusts anybody, where the idea of trust is seen with great suspicion. Right? How can you trust what you read in the paper? How can you trust what the government says? How can you trust what the scientists tell you? How can you trust any of these kinds of things? It's a rampant, fright away from the idea that maybe I can, accept that this is a fact, that this is a truth, whether it's an inconvenient truth or not. Maybe I can accept what I have to do or not. So, but of course, fear is also part of Isaac, right? But fear in Isaac's situation is a fear that is controlled. It's a fear that is named and recognized and accepted without the fear becoming the boss. Because who is the boss? Abraham is the boss. Abraham controls Isaac. Chesed controls Pachad. Chesed controls Gvura. The idea of love and generosity is the overarching value. The right hand encompassing the left hand. Right? The right hand is the one that takes full possession of what's happening. So that recognition of that kind of model is then established as we make a sacrifice daily at that first moment of impulse giving, Abraham, and the second sacrifice, the identical sacrifice. It's the same thing, except the timing is that we give it at the time when Isaac allowed himself to be subjected to being bound. All right. Anybody's commenting? Okay, here we go.
Rabbi, he has said, if so, the phrase at its appointed time should read at their appointed times.
It should be plural. There are two korbanot tamid, one in the morning, one in the evening. Those are two separate times. So why does it say "Lahakrivli bemo ado," to sacrifice to me, to offer to me at its correct time, at its time of conjuncture? Why doesn't it say "Lahakrivli bemo adehem" in their two separate times, in their many appropriate times? So Rabbi is asking this question, and he's asking it of our anonymous teacher, right? The teacher who they bumped into on the road, right? He replied,
at that moment, fire merged with water, water with fire. So it is written, at its appointed time.
okay, so what is this strange guest that they meet on the road? This strange Jew who has nothing. What does he tell them? Why is it in the singular? Where is he getting this imagery, fire and water? What's water? Water
is
is
chesed, fire is gevura, and they're merging. They're becoming one.
They become one. Right? The whole drama of the Akedah for the Zohar, we've had it before. We had it when we learned about it back in that parsha. We had the idea that by allowing himself to be bound to the altar, Yitzchak is putting himself into Chesed's hands. He is not fighting back. He's not resisting. He is submitting to Chesed. By Abraham tying up Yitzchak, Abraham is engaging in a kind of act of gvura. Right? He, as a loving parent, would never want to tie up his son on the altar. Yes, he loves God, but he also loves his son. That's put up as the beginning, right? Take the son that you love and do this. So Abraham, as the unconditional lover, as the no holds barred lover, engages in an act which, of course, has created great consternation forever and ever since that story. What does he think he's doing? How could he possibly do such a terrible thing? So from the Zohar's perspective, exactly. He is himself taking a gevura stand, right? Almost in the sense of irrational violence, irrational punishment, irrational performance of inflicting pain and sorrow. He's doing that act, but nevertheless, he always stays Abraham. And therefore, in the end, of course, the act is stopped. And it stands for what it stands for. It stands for that merging, the successful merging of Chesed and Gevura. That the water doesn't put out the fire, but the fire doesn't dry up the water either. Okay? Abraham is the one in charge, and Abraham in the end shows how much love can conquer if it accepts upon itself the necessity of being hard sometimes. Right? It will prove itself. And that's the punchline in that story. So that's why it's one time. The time is transcended. It's not two separate times. The morning and the evening end up becoming one. They're embraced in the binding of Isaac. Abraham's hope, Abraham's love, Abraham's energy is mixed together with the waning, the passivity, the darkness as it's descending of Isaac's experience. Together, they become one union. So it's one time. It's one unified moment. This is the stranger's answer. Come and see. Now he says more.
Come and see. No, wait. Oh, yeah. Come and see, of no other offering is written what is written here. Tishmaru, take care to offer me. Tishmaru, mystery of
Shamor.
Shomrei. Observe, who must be drawn above as is written. Tishmaru, take care to offer me at its appointed time, by right and left, as already explained, by Abraham and Isaac, all in supernal mystery.
Okay, so he says, and I'll prove to you that what I say is correct. If we continue to really pay attention to the verse, it says, Tishmeru, right? So Tishmeru, make sure, take good care, right? Be on your guard, right? Make sure that this is what you do. So the stranger says, does it say that by the Korban Pesach? No. Does it say it by the Shlamim? No. Does it say it by any other sacrifice? No. It says it here. So why does it say it here? The answer is the Tishmeru is an allusion to this union, to bringing Shekhinah up into union with her lover. This goes back to his beginning, part of his discourse. This verse was discussed. It was an et korbani, et Shekhinah is my close companion. Tishmeru, make sure that the Shamor aspect of God is taken care of here. The Shamor aspect is valenced as feminine. The Zachor is masculine. Zachor v'Shamor, or the way we have it in Lechadodi, Shamor v'Zachor b'dibur echad. Zachor is mentioned first in the Ten Commandments in Exodus, and then Shamor is mentioned in the second version in Dvarim, right? Remember the Sabbath day, or take good care of the Sabbath day. Zachor v'Shamor. And we've talked about this many times, trick question. Why in Lechadodi did the author turn it around? Why does it say Shamor v'Zachor b'dibur echad? Why didn't they do it the right way? The correct citation would be Zachor comes first and then Shamor comes next. It should be Zachor v'Shamor b'dibur echad. Why did he switch it around? Len.
Welcoming the divine feminine.
Oh, come on, you know a better answer. Because he has to write a piyut that starts with the letter Shin, because that's his name, Shlomo. So each stanza in the Lechadodi starts with a letter from his name, Shlomo Halevi, right? So Shamor, right? And then Likrat, Shabbat, right? Then Mikdash, Melech, right? Etc. So he couldn't do it with Zachor. If his name was Zalman, he would have started it with the Zachor. But that's not the way it was, right? Sometimes it's actually, sometimes that's the way it is. Right? What can I say? Thank you, Freud, right? So, yeah. Okay, so but Shamor is the Shekhinah. So Shamor is mentioned specifically. This is for the sake of Shekhinah. Shekhinah needs that balancing of both. Why does Shekhinah need that balancing so much? Right, the balancing is between Abraham and Isaac, between Abraham and Yitzchak, between right and left. So Tishmeru, be careful for the sake of the Shamor, for the sake of Shekhinah, be very, very scrupulous to do this with the perfect balance. Why? Because what would happen if you don't? Then Shekhinah will be taken hostage by the left. If we don't make sure that the balance between right and left is maintained, then the left side will come in and hijack Shekhinah. She is not strong enough on her own to fight because she has nothing of her own. She only accepts what is given to her. She only takes the energies that are put upon her. and the left-hand side is ravenously interested in appropriating, in stealing Shekhinah, right? So therefore, who works harder to create a system of society? The people who are nice or the people who are mamzerim? The answer is the people who are mamzerim. Look at America. The people who are mamzerim work day and night, overtime, creatively, thoughtfully, with dedication, with sacrifice, with all of their energy. They build and build, they get defeated, they don't care, they start again. Right? That's the left-hand side. The left-hand side, unless it is actively countered by a parallel intensity of energy, the left-hand side will win every time. So this is Tishmeru. Be absolutely on your guard. Take very good care, because otherwise Shekhinah will be corrupted and will be kidnapped by the left, which of course by the left in our time is by the right, just to make it crystal clear. All right. So here we go. Yes, anybody want to say anything? David does.
I'm confused. Where does Shamor come from all of a sudden? Otishmaru, really. There's no reference to Zohar. There's no reference to balance that I find.
The balance is that the Moadehem, is put together as one. Right? The fact that you're going to give a Korban Tamid in the morning and a Korban Tamid in the evening. That's the right and the left. The morning is the right, the evening is the left. The light is the chesed, the darkness is the pachad, is the gvura, is the din. So all of these are, I've used this phrase, Art Green, I think is the one who coined it, symbol clusters. Whenever you're talking about something in the Zohar, there are a zillion ways to talk about it. So you don't have to keep only one name for something. You don't have to mention it by that one name consistently. You can go all over the place. The Zohar likes to mix metaphors. So if I talk about the right side, I can also talk about light. I can talk about directions. I can talk about cosmic or worldly phenomena. I can talk about biblical personalities. I can talk about emotions. All of them end up being the same referent, having the same referent. So I can mix all of them together. So now when we're saying Tishmeru, be careful to make sure Shekhinah is united with right and with left. We already established that by saying other things. The light. Oh, light. Oh, yeah. The association of light. Abraham got up at the crack of dawn. Abraham is with the light. And we also have the Tamid at night. Oh, at night during the twilight. Oh, that's when Isaac was. So Isaac is connected with twilight. A equals B equals C equals D. So therefore A equals D. Right? So you make these leaps of one association to the next. So that's what's happening here. The Zohar is very comfortable with that. That's part of what the Zohar's message is. That all of this is so interwoven that it's just about being aware of teasing how that that thread goes. When I sometimes have this very frustrating experience. I have some string, and I'm trying to get the string untied, loosened up. And the string is going like this and like that. And how do I get the wire or the string to straighten itself out? And I have to find which part of it is going underneath which part, and which. The Zohar loves that. The Zohar loves making those knots. The Zohar loves putting everything, intertwined with each other. All right. So anybody else? Okay. So Okay, right and left, Abraham and Isaac. Okay, Rabbi Yesa said.
Rabbi Yesa said, if I came here just to hear these words, I am satisfied.
Hold on a second. I want to just back up for a second. When we look at the beginning of this story, which began on 4:14, we started at the bottom of the page. Rabbi Yitzchak and Rabbi Yesa were walking on the way, right? And then they start talking Torah, right? Then, blah, 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 blah. 4:16, while they were walking, they saw a man approaching. That's the person who's teaching the Torah, right? So, and they see that he's poor, and they say, why aren't you have anything? He's going to do, I'm doing you a favor by letting you be nice to me, right? That's his answer, etc., etc., etc. So we have Rabbi Yitzchak, Rabbi Yesa. So what's going on with Rabbi Chia? So look at 804. Rabbi Chia is not in the group, right? When it says, and Rabbi Chia said, etc., etc., he's not in the group. He's not there. It's only Rabbi Yesa and Rabbi Yitzchak. So look at 804, the note, please.
And Rabbi Chia said, the Jew reports how Rabbi Chia responded to Rabbi Elazar.
So now let's go back to 4:18, right? So and look at the middle of the page. He goes, he opened saying. Got that? Read that one more time. Can you, Beryl? 4:18.
Open saying this.
He opened, meaning the stranger that they met on the road. Go ahead.
Saying this verse was discussed by Rabbi Elazar.
So in other words, this whole discourse that he's giving, I want to now point that I've pointed it out enough before, is actually he is privy to Torah that's being taught by the inner circle of the Chevraya, but these guys don't know it. Right? He knows about a teaching that was offered by Rabbi Elazar. Rabbi Elazar is Rashbi's son, and he knows about a sugya, so to speak, like in the Gemara. He knows that Rabbi Elazar said this, and then Rabbi Chia asked the question, right? So we should just note this is a little peculiar, right? Because he's not bringing in Torah from outer space. He's not bringing in Torah from some other unknown source. He's actually, somehow or other, he knows this Torah in the name of their own compatriots and teachers, and they don't. That's a curious, element in the story. Yeah, Larry.
Good question. The man, this anonymous man is walking.
Say that again, what? Can't hear you.
This anonymous man who's walking along. He has a child on his shoulders. What happened to the child? Why does he have a child on his shoulders? Who is this? What's going on? Who is this guy?
1 second. So yeah, what happened to the child? Anybody?
Presumably he's still there, just
He's just
staying quiet and listening.
quiet and listening. He's sitting on the shoulders and just absorbing it, right?
Or
So
he's
yeah, the fact that-
traumatized by his experiences.
right. What
had
would
some
it
terrible things
mean?
happen.
What would that? If we have to visualize this, we have this guy. Another peculiar element, right? We have this guy who's standing there with these other people, the two other rabbis, and he's got a kid on his shoulders, and he's teaching Torah that these people don't know from their own circle. And if we visualize it, there he is with the kid still there, but the kid is completely silent, completely uninvolved. There has no active part to play here. So what's the effect of the kid there? What is the effect of the kid being on top of his shoulders? So one thing that occurs to me, I hadn't thought about it, is that this will, once you hear the Torah that he tells, to me, this echoes Abraham and Isaac. Right? To me, this a little bit, brings that image to mind. He's the father, and there's the son, except they're not walking hand in hand, they're not walking side by side. Isaac is maybe not a little kid, although a lot of the imagery that we have sometimes likes to play it that way. But sometimes we think about him as a mature adult who's doing this, but still a kid is a kid. So here's a father with the kid on his shoulders. He's supporting the kid, and he's talking Torah with an obliviousness about the kid being there. So on the one hand, he's sort of like not really paying attention to the kid. On the other hand, he's not saying, "Wait, I can't talk. Let me put my kid down because I can't discuss this right now. I can't, and get involved in some deep Torah here because I got a kid on my shoulders." Which means, to maybe another extent, and back to Abraham and Isaac, there's a unity. There's a unity that's being experienced. This man and his child are one. He doesn't have to put his child down in order to be, a teacher of Torah here. The kid needs to be up there. The kid is too young to walk, or the kid is sick or tired or whatever. The kid I have to support the kid, but meanwhile, I'm going to talk Torah. There's no contradiction.
Rabbi?
Yeah, wait, David raised his hand, and then Rich. You may have raised your hand, but I can't tell. So first David and then Rich.
Okay.
But isn't he on a mission? I mean, he's got a son to redeem somewhere. How can he just stop? He was in a hurry before.
Right.
I think I can answer.
Good.
Well, so my impression was this isn't the first time they've done that. The father could have chosen to be a beggar on the street, but he came up with this better way of offering more mitzvahs for the people who help him out. So, and perhaps maybe he even learned that Torah from an encounter with the other rabbi, with Rabbi Elazar.
Okay.
They've done that before. The kids stuff. The impression I get is both he and the kid have done this before. So there's a patience.
Right, but David's asking that the setup is that he's actually on a life and death mission.
Yeah, it knows that. This is about getting their neck. So there's the life and death mission of the son that was lost, but he's got to feed, they've got to eat too today. And perhaps the kid knows he's got to eat. This is about, this is how they earn their food.
Okay, what occurs to me as you're bringing this up is, again, the dimension of time, the appropriate time, the appointed time. There's not a sense here of, oh, I'm late for a very important day. There's not a sense here, I can't talk to you because I have to go redeem my son. Right? He's going to redeem his son eventually, but it's not as if 5 minutes or a half hour or a half a day, it's actually going to make a difference. He's on his way, and he'll get there. So the situation is not apparently as burning as we might have imagined.
Perhaps part of the method.
What? Yeah, go ahead again, Rich.
And perhaps this is part of the method for that as well.
Say more about that.
Maybe he'll learn something about his son's fate with people he meets.
Right. Yeah. In other words, he's in there for the long haul.
Yeah.
It's not like he knows where the son is and he's just got to bring the $10 plunk it down and get him out.
Right.
You're bringing up, maybe he doesn't even know exactly where his son is at the moment.
Yeah. And in the meantime, he's got to eat.
Yeah.
I wonder whether Torah study is part of the redemption process. I mean, he's seemingly a poor man. How's he going to redeem his son? There must be some other currency like Torah study. I don't know how it works.
Okay, and thank you for reminding me. This week's Torah portion actually is about redeeming firstborn, the extra firstborns from the Levites had to be redeemed in Bamidbar in the parsha for this Shabbos, right? Had to be exchanged. So how is he going to get his kid out? Well, he's also schnorring. He's going to be walking through the countryside collecting the money. Somebody else wanted to say something. I thought I saw some flickering of hands. Jen.
Last week when we started this, since I do so much, so many role-playing games, it sounded like the adventure hook, right? Oh, now the rabbis will help this guy go off and redeem his son or recapture his son or something. So it's a little disappointing. It's like, oh, that wasn't the adventure hook. And it is like, it's a little weird to read it because actually he's not getting money from the rabbis, right? They're feeding him and giving him drink. There is no sense of urgency, as he said here. So I'm not even sure, like you said, maybe he can't redeem his son right now at all. If he was impressed, or was it one son or two that he lost? I can't remember. I thought it was two sons actually, but
I have two sons who were taken captive.
Yeah, so he's got two sons who may have been militarily impressed, or they might be far off by now across an ocean, which I guess is one reason why Jews relied on other Jews in other lands to redeem them. Like it might not be actually possible. Yeah, so maybe he's despaired. Maybe that's not maybe he doesn't even see that as a realistic goal. And I like these guys aren't rushing to shower him with any last penny they have either. So maybe they don't see it as a realistic goal either.
So just to push again some of the associations, all of these things are really valuable to enrich this Abraham and Isaac. Would it be meaningful to think about, from the Zohar's perspective, that the Akedah is the drama of Abraham redeeming his son, right? If he doesn't do this Akedah, then Isaac is just going to be on the left side by himself. He will be captive. He will be held captive by those others, right? By the officer in the town, by the bad forces, right? So Abraham has to engage in this very, tricky and stressful challenge. But what he's doing that doesn't look on the outside like he's actually doing anything nice to his son, but he actually is. He's actually redeeming his son. Len.
Yeah, it brings to mind how Christians think of the Akedah scene as prefiguring the crucifixion of the world, and they impute that into the Akedah story. So there's that there.
Right, but so there's similarities, but there's also differences without getting into the back and the forth. Of course, the biggest difference is the son doesn't die. So that's pretty important. There's I think you're aware of it. There's a really, we've mentioned it over the years. There's a very wonderful study called The Last Trial by Shalom Spiegel, who goes in depth into the history behind a piyut that was written about the Akedah at the time of the First Crusades. And he talks about the fact that over history that there's this back and forth between not just Jews and Christians, but Jews and other religious cultures as well, where there's always this kind of like one-upmanship, this kind of religious competition who's got the deeper, more impactful myth. And for some, the idea that Isaac actually lives was a defect in the story. Because, hey, look at how much better our religion is. We actually really do sacrifice the son for God. So that, look at how much more dedicated we are. And Jews had to respond to that. And anyway, so there's a tragic and very, very deep psychological and literary and religious discussion in that book. It's not a long book. It's a gem. It's a very, very important book. Good book. Yeah, Larry.
Also, I don't know if it was inadvertent or advertent, but when you used it was a pun when you used the word kid, because you said he has a kid on his shoulders. But in fact, what Abraham ultimately sacrifices is a lamb, right? Or a kid. I'm sorry. I'm getting confused between a lamb and a goat.
A ram. No, it's a ram.
But
that's why we need it, because we need the shofar.
So the point is also, it just, another thing to be associative about it is that I saw this, once saw this sculpture by Picasso, which has a man holding
a goat
on
his shoulders.
And I think I saw it at the Guggenheim. I'm not sure where I saw it, but it was pretty impressive because it was, I mean, it was impressive Christian, it was impressive Jewish, it was just impressive because it was just like a powerful thing. And then this, and also it's amazing because there's this whole sort of midrashic, a super midrashic discussion, but then there's a story going on. Now we're talking about the story. And, you know, because usually in Midrash, like in Midrash Rabbah, there's no story behind it. It's just a discussion. But here there's a story about this anonymous man.
Now, there are many stories, you know, in the naked Midrash. No, there are stories sometimes. But yes, no, the Zohar is especially invested in presenting its teachings with stories. Some, you know, a lot of walking stories, but other kinds of stories as well. And, you know, of course, with one of the great ironies is that the Zohar a number of times goes through a whole tirade against stories, right? And says, people are so silly, they love to get entertained by stories. Don't they understand that the Torah is not just stories? If we wanted to tell stories, that we could tell better stories than the Torah. The stories in the Torah, that there's a deeper meaning and so on. Well, that's the way the stories are in the Zohar too, right? Yeah, the stories are meant to grab us and to be that kind of like, again, a unifying between human living, which is what stories are, just a record of people living, and meanings that are hidden within seemingly prosaic, mundane features of stories. Yeah. So, but this definitely has some peculiar elements to it that don't seem to be completely. The Zohar doesn't always, I mean, doesn't necessarily. I don't think even, you know, even often, it doesn't do an Aesop's fable kind of thing. It doesn't tell you the story and then give you the punchline. You know, it just tells you the story.
It also doesn't do adventure stories, apparently.
Right. Well, you know what? The rabbi said when people would say, "What's there to add?" and they would say, "Okay, this is one of the generous gifts of this rabbi who left me room to add something, or this story, it doesn't deal with everything, so that I shouldn't feel like everything has been exhausted and I'm left with nothing to say." So the Zohar is being very nice to you and saying, "Okay, come on. So now you go to the next level. You do the next part of it. You know, you're invited."
The next role-playing game I run, yeah, that'll be the start. That'll be the adventure hook.
Absolutely, start it off.
So
Yeah.
So Isaac asks, Ayeh haseh li olah. There needs to be some sort of redemption. Where is the sheep to substitute for me? And God provides. And in this particular case, you have this man carrying his son, and he needs to redeem two sons. I mean, maybe this child is the redeemer in some way. He becomes a rabbi and studies Torah, and
Right.
his other two sons are redeemed somehow.
We're gonna be left completely, in the open.
Hmm.
I'm gonna say in the dark, but we're gonna be completely in the light. What can I say? Yeah. So anyway, these strange features of the story are there, to be looked at and pondered some more. Let's get to the conclusion now, Rabbi Yesa.
Where is he? Rabbi Yesa said,
Next paragraph on 419.
Rabbi Yesa said, if I come here just to hear these words, I am satisfied. Happy are Israel in this world and in the world that is coming. Concerning this is written, your people are all righteous.
Okay, v'yamech kulam tzadikim. Right, this is a verse that's actually used at the beginning of when we study Pirkei Avot. So what did Rabbi Yesa say? Wow, what a fortuitous meeting we've had. This is so worth it, right? If I had made this journey just to encounter this teaching, it would be all worth it. So, and as the note says, this is an exclamation in one form or another that the Zohar makes again and again and again. Rabbi Yesa is very, very happy. And then he goes, look at that. Who's like your people Israel? Unbelievable. So who is he praising here? He's praising the stranger, right? He's praising this person who they underestimated totally before, who they felt was just a nobody, right? And now they see, look at how much he gave us, right? And originally they in the middle they said, look, oh, we gave him and he gave us. We've benefited twice, right? And now they've benefited way, way more from his teaching than whatever material support by giving him a drink or something like that. They engaged. They're on the receiving end of so much goodness. And so ve'amech kulam tzadikim, everybody, even as the note says, even wandering beggars, they're all to be accounted as the righteous. And of course, for the Zohar, what is the role of the righteous? To pour forth divine energy into Shekhinah, right? To pour forth the vitality of goodness. The righteous with a capital R are the divine conduit of goodness into Shekhinah. The righteous with a regular sized R are the earthly righteous who poured goodness into Shekhinah from below, from above and below. The righteous are the ones who empower, who enliven Shekhinah herself. So, and everybody can do that. Every single one of us has that capacity. Good. 420. We get to now. One second, wait. We'll go just a half a second of intro. Now in the insert, we have the next verse that the Zohar is going to discuss in the story back in our Torah portion. So this is Vayetze. Jacob has run away from Lavan, right, with his family. And he's planning to run away, and he's getting everybody, on board. He confers with Rachel and with Leah, and he says, I think that we should go. Is that okay with you? They go, are you kidding? What a terrible person our father is. He's been awful. Yes, let's go. So now they look for the opportune time, and here comes the verse. Back to you, Beryl.
Laban had gone to shear his sheep, and Rachel stole her father's teraphim, household idols.
Okay. So that's it. She sees when he's not there, to protect them. She runs and takes them, and of course they hightail it out of there, and then Lavan is going to run after them. Remember, and he's very irate. He says, "You stole." He says to Jacob, "You stole my idols. How dare you?" And of course, Jacob knows nothing about it, so he denies it up, down, and sideways. Let's see what happens. Okay, so now we have a new cast of characters. Here's Rabbi Yossi.
Rabbi Yossi said, "What are teraphim? They are idolatry. Why are they called teraphim? Out of disgrace, as we have learned. Place of Tereth, Pudenda. And how do we know they were idolatry? As is written, why did you steal my gods? And similarly, anyone with whom you find your gods shall not live." Now Laban was steeped in all sorceries of the world, whereby he discovered whatever he wished to know.
Okay, so we're going to go into a description of how bad Lavan was. But first we have a little philology here. And the trafim that are stolen, what are these trafim? So apparently they were, as it says in the parentheses, household idols. So sort of miniature little iconic things, little sculpture, statues, or figures or something that were portable, that you could put on your mantelpiece, that you could carry with you if you wanted to go on a trip somewhere, a good luck kind of charm. So they were not big, and therefore Rachel could steal them. Rachel could sneak them away. But now we have the Zohar going. So what's this all about? So the first thing is that we say that trafim is a word of contempt. It's a word to express disgust, right? So that's the first thing that they say. And then we have a direct quote where Lavan says that these are his gods. So he admits that this is idol worship. And then we have a slide from idol worship into magic, sorcery, right? And this, of course, is one of the accusations against the idol worship, that idol worship was too much involved in magical sorcery kind of manipulations of the world. Okay, so this is Lavan as a master sorcerer, master magician. So Rabbi Chia.
Rabbi Chia said they were made by magic. Rabbi Yossi says by witchcraft. Rabbi Yehuda said they were made only at precise times. Why are they called trefim? Because one strikes and then arpeh withdraws the hand. As is said, now hereth, withdraw your hand. When a craftsman fashions them, an expert in moments and hours oversees him, saying, now withdraw, now fashion. You won't find another craft from which one withdraws like this.
Okay, so let's stop for a second. We've got three sages here, Rabbi Chia, Rabbi Yossi, and Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Yossi started us off. And the distinctions here are not something that I can make clear. What's the difference between Rabbi Chia, that were made by magic, and Rabbi Yossi by witchcraft? I think that Rabbi Yehuda is actually explaining Rabbi Yossi, that magic, I think the connotation is, magic is poof, all of a sudden they were made, right? there's a kind of an automatic result. You say abracadabra, and there it is. Witchcraft is what Rabbi Yehuda says. There's this thoughtful calculation that goes into the production of this item, and it involves paying attention to many things. It involves paying attention to the material, it involves paying attention to the form, it involves paying attention to whatever perhaps incantations have to be recited while you're doing it, a boil, toil and trouble, or whatever, the bubble, toil and trouble. There, it's got a rhyme, it's got a rhyme also. And also, what does Rabbi Yehuda say? There's also, you have to do this precisely at the right moment. There are certain moments that are auspicious for this, and certain moments that are not. This should remind us of a piece of Torah that we just learned a minute ago. Oh, okay, Merle, so feel better. Okay, refuah shlema, or just, we'll do whatever you need to do. It's okay. So what is this Rabbi Yehuda image? It clearly conjures up for me something that we learned a page back. Appointed times. Craig.
That's exactly what I was going to say. You have to do the sacrifices at their precise times, at the appointed time. And here he's saying, well, with the sorcery was also done at these very propitious times.
So is it just a question of our magic is acceptable and their magic is bad?
No, there's a lot more involved, but
so how would we distinguish?
Well, our so-called magic is we are attempting a unification in the supernal realm to bring blessing to bring blessing above and below. Whereas this the magic of the sorcery that Lavan is supposed to do, that's for it's to subvert and pervert the laws of nature and to for his personal gain. It's not
wait, then what did Jacob do with the sheep and the magic?
No, that was just genetics. We all know that.
I don't know.
No, what is the Zohar? The Zohar says that Jacob engaged in the same kind of act of unification. That Jacob was not looking for material gain. That Jacob was actually saying, oh, I'm Jacob. I have a mission. I need to be the one Tiferet who's going to unite the right side and the left side, and with the right side to be predominant. So I'm going to have to start flaking off the dark, the dark bark from the sticks. And I'm going to have to put them in front of the sheep to create blessing for the world that will be beneficent rather than dangerous and harmful.
So it's beneficial magic as opposed to
that's
selfish
a good
magic.
Question. So is that what it is then? Is it just about whose side you're on, and that what do you mean by beneficial, right? Who gets it? So these are very complicated, questions that don't have, a completely satisfying set of distinctions to be made. You could sort of sniff it out a little bit. Now, in terms of theory, in terms of reality, it's not at all clear that the reality and the theory jibe. But for the Zohar and for Rabbinic Judaism and for the Torah itself, the rejection of magic and of superstition and of demonic, applications and so on, was very, very strong, and was very much based on the judgment call that they're not up to anything good. They're not really doing this for good things. They're doing it either for self-enrichment, or they're doing it to wreak havoc with somebody, to cause harm to somebody else, or they themselves are just already taken over by the demonic and have no sense of morality. They take their own children and offer them to Moloch. Right? So that's there's the Torah, and our continuous tradition from there is very much convinced that we're right and they're wrong. But the way to make those distinctions stick is very hard. It's very hard.
It is, because otherwise it just kind of sounds like, Rachel's friends would be like, wait, did you just steal the St. Christopher statue off of your dad's dashboard? Like, really? It does sound a little like you really have to work hard to justify how this all works out. But because we don't really know that Laban was off sacrificing his children except in marriage.
Well, to a certain extent, you have to just accept the story. The story is Laban wears a black hat. He's bad. So wherever there is bad in the world, that's who Laban represents. That's what Laban represents. So it's not a relativistic, thing. Well, you could always argue that anybody could. There are bad. The baseline for the Zohar is there's a lot of bad out there. So that's for the Zohar undeniable. And if you can't tell, then I'm sorry. But guess what? There's really bad out there. If you can't tell that Putin is bad, then there's something that you need to work on, because it's just clear. He's bad, period. There's nothing to talk about. So that the fact that there is identifiable bad is clear and indisputable. It's the axiom that starts things going. For the Zohar, magic is engaging in practices that are in the service of the bad, however that may be defined or experienced. And that's part of we had it way back with Abraham giving gifts to his children other than Isaac. And the family, literally the family resemblance between magic and the Zohar's conception of how we should be practicing Judaism, the family resemblance is very, very strong. So the Zohar would simply say, but we're serving God.
Is this
serving Baal?
I was actually wondering about that. Is this the same period? Like, I know we don't know exactly when the Zohar was from, but is it roughly around when we Jews were making all these superstitious amulets and all these, different things?
But since we've been making superstitious amulets forever.
Oh, okay. So then it was. So I know we don't. I don't know how often we do it now. I don't mean just the fish necklaces or something, but we had some really kind of cool and
we've discovered. Look, we discovered all kinds of magic bowls from Babylonia. So 2,500 years ago. So we've been engaged in this kind of stuff forever. Sometimes there's pushback. But if you look at our mezuzahs that we put on our doors, on the outside in the inside of the mezuzah, there's the written, the first paragraph of the Shema, right? But in the outside of the mezuzah, there's a few letters that are written as a kind of a transposition of God's name, as a kind of an amulet. And Maimonides goes ballistic, says this is so terrible, this is so wrong, you're profaning the mezuzah. It's not what the mezuzah is all about. You cannot find the mezuzah today without that. It's on every single mezuzah. So he lost that fight.
I have a little sympathy for him.
So that's it. All right, we're gonna stop here and we will hopefully continue next time. I want to wish everyone a wonderful, wonderful Shabbat and Chag Shavuot Sameach, Zman Matan Toratenu. And please avail yourselves of the opportunity to taste how sweet the Torah can be. Okay? Tzaigas to everybody.
Yosh Koach.
Yes, cool.